Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to go over scientific notation and multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting in scientific notation. So scientific notation is if you have a number like 2 times 10 to the 5, for example. Okay. Now the reason we write down these numbers like this written in ordinary notation would mean that if the decimal was here, if we move it over 5 times, right, 5 times to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we would have 200,000, right? If we have a number like, let's say 3 times 10 to the negative 2, okay, this means that we would move the decimal over to the left 2 times, 1, 2. So this would actually be 0.03. Okay. So this is telling you in ordinary notation where you're moving the decimal. And this can be a bit confusing for some of you guys, but just know that if you have a number like this, if it's a positive number, it's going to be a large number. If it's got a negative exponent, it's going to be a very small number. Okay. So with that being said, sometimes you'll be faced with adding or multiplying exponents and scientific notation numbers. Now there is a function on the calculator that will help you plug in the numbers and all that, but I'm going to show you an easy way to do this. It's a very, very, very simple way to be able to do all of this. Okay. So again, this should be on the right side as always with all the notes that we do. And I'm going to explain what this means right now, okay? The decimal to the left means that the exponent, you're going to make it bigger. To the right means that you're going to make it smaller. Okay? So let me go ahead and erase this so that we can go over it. And this should be on the left side, okay? Must erase all answers. That's okay. I'm going to go over the answers, okay? So here we are faced with a number, 2.12 times 10 to the 3 times 3.58 times 10 to the 4. Okay, so all of this right here, this is all one number. Okay, this, if you were to write it in ordinary notation, it would look like this, right? The decimal was right there originally, and we moved it over 3 times. So this would actually be 2,120. Same with this. If you move the decimal over 4 times to the right, then you would get the number. So you can convert this into ordinary notation, or sometimes there might be a very, very large number, like 2.12 times 10 to the negative 34, which we will encounter numbers like this, as you might have in chemistry, where you were doing the mole, 6.022 times 10 to the 23, right, atoms or whatever. So this is a very large number. So if you were to write down this number in ordinary notation, I mean, it would be a very, very large number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all the way up to 23 zeros. And that's kind of silly to write all that down, that very, very large number, where we can just write it in scientific notation, and we can figure out how to multiply these numbers. So here we go. So what you do in this case is, let me write down this number. This right here, 2.12, it's telling me to do this, okay? I'm going to multiply 2.12 times 3.58. Let me get my trusty calculator. So let's multiply 2.12 times 3.58. And I get 7.58. Okay, so now what do we do with the exponents? These guys right here. This is actually telling you to do this. Now when you're multiplying, it's actually asking you to do this. You're just adding the exponents. So 3 plus 4 is 7. And, whoa, that's a big 7. It should not be 107, it should be times 10 to the 7. And there we go, that's it, that's the answer. That's all you have to do. So I know this was a little fast for some of you, so let's do another example. So let's multiply 6.11 times 9.53. So, trusty calculator, do your magic. 6.11 times 9.53 gets me 58.2. I'll just say 58.2. Times, so now these guys right here, the exponents, 3 plus 7 is 10 times 10 to the 10. Okay. Now, that's it, right? There's just one little extra step that we have to take, okay? So, scientific notation, see how you have a number and then a decimal and then a number and then a decimal and then a number, a decimal and then a number, a decimal and then a number, okay? See, here we have two numbers, a decimal, and then a number. We need to convert it into true scientific notation, which means that we need to move this decimal over here to look like this. Now, once we do that, once we move this decimal over to the left, that's where this comes into play, where if you move the decimal to the left, the exponent is going to get larger. We moved it over just one time, right? Once. So this one, we're just going to add it one time. Okay? That should be an 11. Okay? But there you go. That's how we end up multiplying scientific notation numbers. You multiply the numbers like normal. You add the exponents, and you have to make sure that it's a number, a decimal, and then a number. If not, you just have to move the decimal over. And I mean, it should just be a very simple little line like this, where if you go to the left, the number is bigger. If you go to the right, the number is smaller. Okay. Let's do another example. And here we have scientific notation, but we are dividing. So, how would you divide these numbers? It's really simple. All you're going to do is, see this right here? Just divide that normally, okay? So, 9.72 divided by 3.19, and that gives me 3.04. I'll just say 3.04. Okay. Now the exponents, this, if in multiplying we were adding the exponents, here we're gonna do what? I hope you guys guessed that you subtract the exponents. So this 12 minus 6 is 6. If it's simple, it's because it is. It's very simple. Okay? See how easy this is? Let's do this one right here. 2.34. Just do that normally. 2.34 divided by 8.78. And that gives me 0.26. Okay. And the exponents, 5 minus 8, that should give me a negative 3. Okay. Now, we just have to convert this into true scientific notation. This decimal is in the wrong spot. We have to move it here. So it should be 2.6. And if we do a number line, okay, I did tell you guys that if you move the decimal to the left, you're going to get it bigger. If you move it to the right, it's going to get smaller. Okay. So since we moved it to the right, the number should get smaller. So if I have a number like, let's say 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2. So smaller means this way, right? So this would be negative 4. Okay. Pretty simple, right? The multiplying, adding, and all that stuff, it's very simple. You do normally what it's asking you to do, and the exponents, you're either going to subtract the exponents if you're dividing, or you're going to add them if you're multiplying, okay? So now, what happens if you have to add or subtract the exponents? Well, let's figure that out here. So in this case, these can be a lot easier. I would suggest that you copy this and hopefully in another section. If not, then that's okay. If you're just continuing it on the left side. So adding and subtracting. So here, what we're going to do is these numbers, let's just do what it tells us to do normally. Let's add those up. 3.769 plus 4.21. 7.97. So now the exponents, well, what do? We can't add them, because if this said multiply, then yes, you would add them. So what do we do in this case? Well, here's a trick for this. Okay? If they are the same exponents, you just leave it as is. Okay? 10 to the 5, 10 to the 5, they are the same, boom, drag it down. That's your answer. Okay? Let's do this next one right here. 8.14 minus 2.01. 8.14 minus 2.01. And that gives me 6.13 times 10 to the... Are these exponents the same? Yes, they are. And there we go. That is our answer, right? I know what you're thinking. I know your question. Say it. Say the question. What if these numbers aren't the same? Okay, let me show you what happens if the numbers are not the same. With this slide, and just remember here, I just have that, so this way is bigger, this way is smaller. We can just do some numbers, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2. Okay. Now, when the exponents are not the same, this is just for adding or subtracting, okay? This is just for adding or subtracting, because if you're multiplying, you're adding the exponents. If you're dividing, you're subtracting the exponents. But if they're not the same, again, this is just for adding or subtracting. Don't do this for anything else aside from adding or subtracting, if the exponents aren't the same. What we're going to do is, the first thing we need to do is see how here it's a 5 and here it's a 6. We need to either convert this into a 6 or this into a 5. Okay? So, it doesn't matter which one we convert. I'll convert this one to a 6. Okay? So how do I convert it into a 6? Well, I have to move the decimal to the left to make it bigger, right? We need to go this way to the left to make it bigger. So the decimal, this guy, I'm going to move it over here. So it should be 0.0758 times 10 to the 6 now. Okay? We're going to cross this out. And it should read now that plus 2.87 times 10 to the 6. So now what we're going to do is, let's just add these up. Well, let's add this part up right here. Too far. 0.0758. 0.0758 plus 2.87. 2.87 gets me 2.94. 2.94 times 10 to the 6, right? You bring these down if they're the same, okay? For adding and subtracting. In a way, adding and subtracting is somewhat easier because the exponents, you bring them down, okay? Yeah, they have their own little tricks, right? Multiplying, you're adding them, but these are the rules. So notice here, see how this one's a -8 and this one's a -10? We need to convert one into the other, okay? So how do we do that? Well, here we have, let's convert this one. It doesn't matter. Here, let's convert this one into an 8. How about that, okay? So into an 8, so if it was over here, if it was like this, -10, -9, -8, so we're going this way. We're going bigger, see? So if we go to the left, we are actually going bigger. So we need to move the decimal over to the left 2 times. Okay. We went over 2 times. 1, 2. Okay. So that is this number now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up, I'm going to subtract this and this number. So 2.9785, 2.9785 minus 0.0572, and that gives me 2.9. And since the exponents are the same now, we keep them the same, okay? So here, let's kind of see what we have to do here, okay? Now, I'm not worried about the multiplying, subtracting, and all that stuff. It's the decimals that, or the exponents that are the ones that we're focusing on, right? So these numbers, you're gonna do whatever it tells you, right? So here, let's check this out, okay? Let's see if we can do these as fast as we can. 4.86, so first of all, we're subtracting, so the exponents are the same. So if they are the same for adding or subtracting, you leave that alone. And now you just do whatever it tells you. 4.86 minus 4.72 gives me 0.14. Now this would be the answer, but like I said, it needs to be number, decimal, number. The decimal's in the wrong spot, so I'm going to move it over to the right. So if I'm going to the right, I have to get smaller. So this is my answer, okay? Let's see this next one. We are adding, the exponents are the same. You leave that alone. And now you do this. You add those up. 2.3 plus 6.9 gives me 9.2. See how this one has the number and then the decimal and the number? We don't have to do anything like on this problem up here, okay? That's it, that's the answer. So next one, here we have 10 to the 5, 10 to the 3. We ran into a problem here, right? We need to make this into a 3 or this into a 5. It doesn't matter which one we do, it's gonna get you the same answer, okay? So let's make this one into a 3, I don't know. Let's make it into a 3. So we're gonna have to move the decimal over to make it smaller to the right. So this decimal, I'm gonna go to the right 2 times, right? 423 times 10 to the 3 minus 3.5 times 10 to the 3. Let's do that. So now I am going to do 423 minus 3.5. 423 minus 3.5, and that gives me 419.5. Let's do it right here. 419.5 times 10 to the 3. And like I said, this decimal is in the wrong spot. I have to move it back this way to the left 2 times. If I'm going to the left, I am getting bigger, okay? And I said 2 times. Now I want you to notice, what if we made, here, this is the answer for this one, okay? I'm gonna leave the answer there, like that. I'm gonna erase this part right here. What if we made this guy into a 5, right? We made this one into a 3. What if we made this one into a 5? Let me show you what happens, okay? So if we wanted to make it into a 5, we would have to move the decimal to the left 2 times, right? From 3 to 5, so we would go 1, 2. So it should be 0.035. So if we were to do 4.23 minus 0.035, see how it gives me the same answer, 4.19, and here it is, 4.19. The only difference is this one, the answer's already done for you, right? It's already to the power of fifth, okay? So there you go. That's how we do this. I think the trick for this is you always want to convert it into the larger number, if I'm correct, okay? You can try that out. Try to convert them into the larger number, and it should automatically give you this. If you convert it, I think, into the smaller number, you're going to have to convert it into the larger number, okay? So there you go. That's adding, subtracting. Here we have multiplying. So let's multiply 3 times 7.2. 21.6. Now we're multiplying, okay? So when you're multiplying the exponents, you're supposed to add them. 4 plus 6, 10. And this decimal, it has to be like this, okay? So if I move it over to the left, I'm going this way, I have to make the exponent larger. And I just moved it once, therefore it's a 11, okay? 2.16. And the last one that we're doing, 9.6 divided by 6.4. 9.6 divided by 6.4. 1.5. Now, what do we do with the exponents when we are dividing? You're going to subtract them. 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay. There we go. Simple exercise. So what I suggest you do is, if you're still having trouble with this, I'm going to erase this. Okay. So maybe you can pause it or whatever. But if you're having trouble with this, what I suggest that you do is write down the problems. Well, I'm not going to erase it. Write down the problems, just the problems, work them out, and then see if you get these answers. See if you're remembering the steps. And really simple, the steps are, when you're adding or subtracting these, if they're the same, you drop it down, okay? If they are not the same, then I believe you're going to have to convert it to the larger one. See how this is a 5 and this is a 3? You're going to have to convert the smaller one into a larger one, okay? The multiplying and dividing, the exponents, you're going to add them. Do whatever it tells you. You're going to multiply the numbers normally, and then you add the exponents. For division, you divide the numbers, and then you subtract the exponents, okay? And in the end, your answer always, always, always has to be a number, a decimal, and then a number. If your answer is something like this, 0.3 times 10 to the 2 or whatever, you have to move the decimal over, okay? And you're going to use this. If you go to the left, you get bigger. To the right, it's smaller. Here, I moved it over to the left. Therefore, my exponent is going to get larger, bigger. How much bigger? Well, I moved it over twice. 1, 2. So that 2 becomes a 4 now. Okay? There you go.